Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Go check out my website at skyazrael.com. Let's get into today's topic. I want to talk about masculinity, if I can say the word right, versus femininity. But I don't want to talk about them like pitting them against each other as if we're talking about men versus women. Because each person, man and woman, we all have a masculine and a feminine side. Every one of you men has a feminine side. Even the toughest guy, even a guy like Debo, even though it's a character on a movie, I've known real guys like that, real intense and real hardcore dudes. Even those guys have a feminine side. And it may come out when they're petting a kitten or playing with their 2-year-old daughter. Likewise for women. Women have a masculine side to varying degrees. Every person has these to varying degrees. I think we have a problem with manhood. When I say manhood, I mean masculinity. And we have a problem with men in various ways that I could probably make 100 videos on. But there seems to be within men, young men, even some older ones my age, that there's a unhealthy mix of the masculine versus feminine. If we're making a stew and you have a little bit of masculine in a seasoning jar, and then a little bit of feminine in a seasoning jar, if you can imagine that, you want to be able to put in the right amount. And some people don't really have the right amounts. It shouldn't be a 50-50 mix. It's not like we should be half feminine and half masculine, like the yin and the yang might suggest. The yin and the yang isn't simply masculine and feminine. It's dark and light. It's a whole world of dualities, this concept of the duality of life. So don't get hung up in particulars. But it shouldn't be 50-50. At least for men. I'm not going to make a video telling women how to be feminine. But I will make a video about telling men how to be masculine. To be masculine, it should be 60-40, 70-30. You should be more masculine than you are feminine. Very quickly, let's go over some traits, some masculine and feminine traits. This is what we have within us, and you can identify this. Say if you have kids, you might be able to identify with your sons. If you have a couple boys, you might be able to identify which ones are more masculine than others. Not to play favorites, but you could be able to tell. If you were somehow worried about one of your kids not being masculine enough, maybe they were 60% feminine and 40% masculine, and you're wondering, well, geez, I kind of wanted my son to grow up in a different way, to be a different type of person. There's ways that you could target this. So, feminine temperament amongst boys or men, because people don't just grow out of this stuff. Sometimes you're stuck with this problem for life. One of them is negative emotion. If you're high in negative emotion, you would be defined as emotionally unstable. People who have a lot of negative emotion, that's the definition of being emotionally unstable. Because your baseline should be a sense of calm towards happiness. So then when you're being negative, you start this roller coaster ride of emotion. People can become just emotional people. I know some dudes that are just emotional guys. It's not like they're crying all the time, because they're dudes, but they're really emotional guys. They get lost in emotion. And those types of people typically have a baseline mentality of negativity. They start off kind of negative. I know what that's like, to wake up every day in a bad mood. Every day is a bad day. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that in itself would be defined amongst classical psychology as a feminine temperament. So if you're a negative Nilly, you may be more feminine than you thought. And it's funny to me sometimes when I see guys that use anger and negativity as a form of being tough, when it literally is making you look the opposite. It makes you look like you are emotionally unstable, which is a feminine trait. Another feminine trait to notice, these aren't things to erase from your system, you're not deleting files, but would be compassion. For example, women are traditionally less competitive. Psychologically, you can do studies. Take 10,000 women and study this, and you'll find that, and take 10,000 men and study it. People have found that competitiveness isn't as important as a core value amongst women, that they're more interested in compassion and walking together rather than being first. Guys want to be first. You look at little boys, they want to be first. And another one is that a feminine temperament would be more interested in people than in things. More interested in just connection with other humans than sitting in your workshop playing with your tools. Because that's kind of traditionally what a guy does, and being very social, having your social structure, your friendship circle, if that's everything to you. My friends are everything to me. That's a feminine statement. None of this is meant to say that you're a woman or there's something wrong with you. It's just to notice. So then the masculine would be somewhat of the opposite of these. Masculinity can be defined by competitiveness. That, like I said, wanting to be first, wanting to be best. And this explains, some people think that there is like this systemic, there's a glass ceiling, like that women are being kept out of certain industries. Say, for example, in the corporate world, that women were kept out of it from climbing the ladder. And there's more men that are bosses than women, and people look at that as some sort of problem. Some of that may be a problem, but there's these are traits of humanity. So men are naturally more competitive. Little boys are naturally more competitive with each other than little girls are with each other. So that is one reason, that competitiveness is why we want to be bigger, why we want to be stronger, why we want to be better, and why women roll their eyes at that shit. And we're over here arm wrestling and racing our cars, and the women are all hanging out with each other, laughing at us. So competitiveness is a masculine trait. Being emotionally stable could be defined as being positive. And I don't mean like Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, where you're some weirdo, right? Because I'm not a real happy guy. You don't see me smiling a lot. But I'm a positive motherfucker. I believe my motto is, where there's a will, there's a way. You can go ask anybody. It's on my business cards. You could tell me any kind of horrible thing that's going on. Your house blew up, your family died, whatever. The worst thing you can think of. I'm thinking of solutions while you're sitting there crying about it, because I'm a positive person. It wasn't always that way, though. When I've been negative, that's how, like we said, that's how you define emotional instability. So the opposite, emotional stability, would be positivity. And then, just to finish off, because we're going with the opposites here. Just wanted to, you value things over people. So with the feminine trait, you value people over things. Your social group is more important than your car or your motorcycle. For me, honestly, all I really need is my bike, my pistol, my wallet. And I don't mean to be a jerk, but hey, I'm good. That's all I really need. You give me that bike and a fucking credit card and a weapon and man, I'm gone. I survived. I'd be fine. You know? Motherfuckers I know want to have their motorcycles buried with them. They're not trying to get their wife buried with them. They want their motorcycle buried with them. Chicks don't understand that. So the reason why I point that shit out is to pay attention, because I don't believe we should have a 50-50 mix. So if you're looking at those two lists that I just ran down, it shouldn't just be 50-50. You should be mostly masculine and then have some feminine traits. And if you find in yourself or in your son or in your homeboy or in your brother, these feminine traits are predominant, they're negative more than they are positive, point that shit out to them and be like, yo, brother, look, and lay it down to them so they understand it. Don't just pick on them. And then we can self-regulate, because a lot of what we do is self-regulation, is course correcting. If you've ever been sailing and you get a spot on the horizon, follow that spot. Well, you have to continually course correct to readjust the boat, or if you thought you were staying steady, oh, that ocean will take you way off. So we have to do this with our lives. It's all just food for thought. Thanks for watching.